Today, we are digging into a really personal and frankly very strange story from the book Connections. It's about two friends, Beth and Anna, and how they became convinced that their entire lives were caught up in these bizarre encounters with aliens.
So let's just start right here with Beth's own words, because I think this really sets the stage. She said this was the most difficult thing she'd ever had to do. You can feel the struggle in that sentence, right? For her, this wasn't some cool story to tell. It was a complete crisis of what she thought was real.
So, Section 1, a crack in reality. This is where it all begins. We meet Beth, a woman who had, a totally firm grip on her life, on the world, and that was all about to get completely shattered by things she just could not explain. Now, before Beth ever considered aliens, you have to see the list of things she tried to blame first. She tried to write it all off as, okay, just vivid dreams, maybe exhaustion, or maybe her imagination was just running wild. She was so desperate for a logical answer that she literally thought it would be better to have a mental illness than to face what she eventually called alien intervention. I mean, that tells you everything about how skeptical she was at first. And then you have her best friend, Anna. She's the complete opposite. She's the practical one, the skeptic. Sure, she thought maybe some lights in the sky exist, but the idea that they were actually occupied, to her that was just, movie stuff. This is someone who said she couldn't even handle scary movies, let alone something like this. And right there, that's the question that changes everything. What happens when it's not just one person's private little crisis anymore? What happens when the reality two people share starts to fall apart for both of them at the exact same time?
Okay, Section 2, searching for answers. Because now a specific event happens to both of them, and it forces them to face this thing together.
So check this out. They both see a UFO in 1989. You'd think their stories would match up perfectly, right? But nope. Beth remembers seeing 3 silent lights just hanging there. But Anna, she remembers at least 4, maybe 5. And get this, she also remembers being inside watching TV while it was happening. How is that even possible? How can you be in 2 places at once? From the very start, the shared experience made absolutely no sense.
So when Anna, the skeptic, is the one who says, hey, we should probably report this, Beth is just floored. She thought Anna had lost her mind. And her reaction here really shows you the kind of fear they were dealing with, not just of the event, but of being laughed at, of being called crazy. To her, the whole idea was, as she says, absolutely insane. So what was the final straw? It wasn't just weird memories. It was actual physical stuff they couldn't explain. Like a Christmas present that they found all messed up, retaped in this really weird way, and somehow it was lighter than it was before. It was those tangible, baffling little things that finally made them say, okay, we need to call someone.
And that brings us to Section 3, memories unlocked by hypnosis. And this is where the story gets really dark. They went into hypnosis hoping for answers, for some clarity, but what they got instead was, well, it was a Pandora's box of traumatic memories they didn't even know they had.
Just listen to this. This is what came out during Beth's hypnosis when she was remembering something from her childhood. She's crying out, "The cats are coming in! The cats are back, Daddy!" It turns out her brain had created a screen memory, this safe, benign image of cats, to protect her from the memory of what was really happening, a terrifying visit from what she later called gray beings.
And what about Anna, the pragmatist? Under hypnosis, this deep-seated phobia she had of babies suddenly makes a terrible kind of sense. She cries out, "I hate babies, they're not human, they don't look right." And this outburst was tied directly to a recovered memory of being forced to hold what she called hybrid children.
Beth's memory is just as visceral. It's like holding something dead, disgusting. This wasn't some vague, fuzzy dream. You can hear it in her words. The memory was physical, it was sensory, and it was deeply, deeply traumatic.
So, Section 4, a secret shared past. Because it turns out the hypnosis wasn't just uncovering individual nightmares, it was pointing to something much, much bigger about their friendship, that them meeting as adults might not have been a coincidence at all.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It is staggering.
It suggests this secret history they shared that neither of them consciously remembered. It started way back in the early 1950s with a memory of them together in a playpen. According to the hypnosis, their lives had been crossing in these abduction scenarios for decades before they officially met at that horse farm in '87.
And this, right here, this is the moment that just chills you to the bone. Under hypnosis, Beth remembers being a little girl, and she's comforting this other little toddler, a scared blonde girl. And without even thinking, Beth calls her AJ, Anna's initials. It's a connection that these memories trace all the way back to when they were basically babies.
So, how do you live with that? How do you just go back to your normal life knowing all of this? That brings us to Section 5, living a double life. They had to figure out how to function in the real world while carrying this massive, terrifying secret.
And this chart really shows how they managed it. They were basically living in two different realities at the same time. You've got the normal world on one side, paying bills, work, taking care of the horses, and then you have this secret alien world on the other, missing time, unexplained scars, repressed trauma. They had to learn to compartmentalize, to build these walls in their minds just to keep everything from collapsing.
But here's the thing. They didn't just stay victims. This quote from Beth, this is a huge turning point. It's her saying, you know what? No. In my world, on my turf, I'm the one in charge. They decided to start fighting back, to take control of their own story.
And that new attitude leads us straight to our last section, Section 6, Awakening to a Purpose. This is where we see them transform all of that fear and confusion into something new, into a mission, really. This change is just incredible to watch. They go from being these terrified victims to becoming, well, investigators of their own lives. They documented everything. They went to the big MIT abduction conference in '92 and presented their case. They eventually formed a support group and even wrote their book, all because they wanted to help other people who were going through the same thing feel less alone.
And what they found out was, they were anything but alone. That little support group they started, it grew to more than 30 people from their area. Men, women, even kids all coming forward with these deeply similar, disturbing stories. That community became absolutely essential for them to cope.
And in the end, their story leaves us with this huge, profound question. When the things you remember and the world you see don't match up anymore, what's left of you? What's left of your identity? For Beth and Anna, what started as a search for answers about aliens ended up becoming this terrifying and ultimately transformative journey into who they really were.